Hello everyone, it is August 13th. This is like my third attempt to try to make this video. So I've been going back and forth with the Secret Service all day, not joking, for a fraud case I'm working on involving a crypto scam. Okay, so long of the short, that's not what I'm gonna talk about, the Secret Service, but I am gonna talk about the blockchain today. So during the course of this investigation that I've had going on for the last several months, I kind of acquired a mentor for myself who worked in the government training on crypto investigations and was kind enough, he's now retired, kind enough to mentor me. So I've really been able to take a deep dive into cryptocurrency and more importantly, how the blockchain works. And why I want to bring this up is because the blockchain has huge implications. So a lot of times people will use the blockchain in cryptocurrency interchangeably, and that's not entirely correct. So cryptocurrency is currency that operates on the blockchain, whereas the blockchain is more of the infrastructure. And so there's this common misconception that since it's decentralized, it's not, it's private. So since it's decentralized, there's no authoritarian regime looking over your shoulder and trying to, I guess, control your movements or restrict your freedoms, I guess would be a better way to say it. It's almost viewed as a more peer-to-peer platform rather than top-down, I guess. However, I would like to clear up this misconception because I think it's a dangerous one. Just because something is decentralized and not highly regulated does not mean your privacy is ensured. And in this case, it is actually the opposite. So the risk you run with using anything on the blockchain, well, first let's talk about the good parts, right? So technology is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's how we use it. So the blockchain can actually be used for the good of society. And one thing that comes to mind is it does, if used appropriately, limit fraud. So for example, let's talk about a common one that everybody's heard of is odometer rollbacks, right? So you go to buy a car, the used car salesman has rolled back the odometer to make the mileage less so he could sell the car for more. Well, with blockchain technology, auto manufacturers, for example, BMW, implement a system where their odometer reports to the blockchain and it can't be tampered with. So once it is on the blockchain, it is in fact permanent. You can't manipulate it and you definitely can't erase it, to my knowledge. So that's one of the good things, if you will. It can reduce fraud. It can increase efficiency, especially in supply chain management. And that's a huge one that I actually see as a positive, for the most part, benefit of the blockchain is the ability to track your products or whatever, your raw materials from other countries. And listen, we live in a global society and it's what it is. So I think it can boost international trade if used appropriately. There's a lot of things. The currency, for example, you get rid of exchange rates, right? So instead of, when you go to Europe on vacation, you have to take your US dollars and exchange it into the euro. And there's fees and exchange rates associated with that. Well, cryptocurrency eliminates those. So it makes theoretically international travel and the money associated with it more convenient and more efficient. Now, where it can go drastically wrong, if it is misused, is the fact that it's permanent. All transactions are permanent and it's highly traceable. And it's not like your bank, where you go to the bank and your bank has access to your transaction info and a subpoena is required if the government wants to have access to that, typically. And so really that's kind of what you have to worry about, or hackers. Obviously you have to worry about hackers, which you also have to do with anything virtual, so even blockchain stuff, right? But here's where the blockchain, especially the currency part of it, really kind of raises some red flags for me personally. Anybody has access to that data. It's public and it's traceable. And so that's a huge misconception that crypto is untraceable. That's simply not the case. Now, is it harder to recover than traditional currency? I will say yes. Is it harder to trace? No. There are techniques that scammers use that I won't get too technical with that make it a little bit harder to trace, especially when we're talking foreign exchanges that aren't US based, because then you're running into a lot of jurisdiction issues where you have to work with the legal system in that country. And I will tell you this, I'm pretty convinced at this point that places like Dubai have literally been built with fraudulent funds, in crypto especially, but we won't get into that. So problem is, since it's decentralized, anybody can have access to your transactions. And if you know what you're looking for and you know how to do it, they are traceable. Like I said, scammers are more advanced and they know this, and they almost use it to their benefit sometimes. But there always has to be an offload place too, right? A choke point. So they'll transfer the crypto around into different wallets, they're called. You can trace all that. They'll put it into a stable coin, whatever. It'll go into some hot wallets. It has to come out somewhere, and usually that's the choke point. And what you do at that point is the average person, obviously, I will say the wallet addresses are anonymous, so to speak, where at least publicly available information doesn't tie your name to it, but it doesn't take much to be able to figure out who you are. Let's just put it that way. However, subpoenas, right? So the exchanges a lot of times will be subpoenaed. So say for example, like you have Coinbase, a scammer takes money from someone, moves it around, blah, 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 blah. They have to be on that exchange for the most part. So say they're on a Coinbase exchange. You can then subpoena Coinbase and say, hey, who does this wallet address belong to? And maybe it's a fake identity. Anyway, it's just a thread that you pull and track down the next steps until you arrive at your ultimate conclusion. And I will say this, with these advanced scamming schemes, a lot of times these are not one individual. These are networks and literal compounds of people. Like think like sweatshops, but for crypto scams. I'm not joking. There'll be these compounds of people like in these buildings, like literally a compound in these third world countries that don't have any regulations. And so recovery, like I said, can be more difficult in that case, but the tracing of it, no. So how does this, why am I bringing this up? Because I think the crypto was pushed as a liberating, I guess is the correct word, alternative to the draconian banking system. And while I agree the central banks and the whole monetary system for sure has its issues, I'm not denying that. You guys know how I feel about certain things. However, cryptocurrency and just the blockchain, the institution of the blockchain to track everyday things and whatnot, including currency, has the potential to be even more authoritarian. And here's where it gets really bad. Because it's decentralized, there's no hierarchy. So you have like what we just saw with BlackRock. And if you listen to me, I don't have to tell you about BlackRock. You already know. If you don't know, look it up. You have them dumping billions, I think, of dollars, millions, if not billions of dollars into Ethereum, which is, one of the cryptocurrencies, if you will. So they're dumping all this money into Ethereum. People are trying to figure out, well, why are they going to make their own? Long or the short, because this thing has been unregulated for so long, it has allowed monopolies to develop in the technology behind it, and also in the blockchain itself, and in these exchanges, and in the cryptocurrency. So you could potentially run into a situation, since it's decentralized, where you are under draconian control, or draconian overlords, if you will, being overlorded by corporations. Not that that's already not happening in a proxy sort of way, but I'm talking directly. And to me, that's a little scary. On top of it, the puppet governments can also track everything you do. Like I said, once it's on the blockchain, it's public information, and every step is tracked and can't really be manipulated, can't be taken off. So use your imagination it's not hard to see where it could go, I guess is my point. And the potential for abuse, in my opinion, knowing what I know about the world we live in 2025, is there's more of a likelihood for abuse than there is a free and liberating, decentralized peer-to-peer platform. It's not going to work like that. And I'm sorry. I know that's disappointing, and I know maybe the movement, or that was the origins of it. Maybe it was a grassroots movement. I have my serious doubts about that, especially when you start looking into who the founder of Bitcoin was. Or I guess I should say nobody really knows who the founder of Bitcoin was. But I'll leave that one alone for the conspiracy theorists. My outlook on it, I can compare it to the French Revolution. And I know that sounds weird. I can compare it to the French Revolution though, and not just like economically speaking, this has social implications as well. The French Revolution was really a giant transfer of power from the Christian monarchs to the democratic republics, okay? Now we're seeing another transfer of power from the democratic republics to corporations. And what you're going to end up with is almost like, and I know this is kind of an oxymoron, but it's almost like a communist style capitalism. I don't really know how else to say it. And really, I don't even want to qualify that right now, but that's really kind of where it ends up if it's abused. And so you'll have the ruling elite class, which is kind of what we already have, is the, the capitalists, these giant corporations, the hedge funds, really in that crew, the BlackRock crew. But now, instead of having a buffer of the government and a traditional banking system, now they're going to have direct access to the public's information. So do with that information what you will. I was successfully able to trace my client's crypto scam as good as I could, I guess, I was able to tell law enforcement what to subpoena if they so wish. Let's just put it that way. I don't know if the Secret Service technically wants to work for me, but if they want to look into it further, they now know exactly what needs to be subpoenaed and what to do. Now, they're very linear thinking, I guess is the nicest way to say it, where they want to deal with it directly without a big investigation. So they're looking at it as if there's no money, and that's a recovery. They're looking at it from, if there's not a good chance of recovery, we're not going to bother issuing the subpoena. Whereas I'm looking at it from not only a criminal standpoint, but also a civil standpoint and more long-term. I want all the information so I can ascertain where this scam originated from and shut it down and get my client's money back with a civil judgment. Although it's unlikely, I think it's worth a shot. Now, the federal government full of employees does not agree with that usually. So this one will go the civil route. It'll have to get attorneys involved, and it probably will end up out of the country. But long of the short, it's not traceability that's the issue with these money launderers and all that stuff. It's the recovery. It truly is the recovery. So that's my spiel. The blockchain has the potential to change the world. The blockchain will change the world. It will be implemented. We can't ignore it anymore. We can't ignore digital currency anymore. It will be implemented. The question is, will it cause hell or will it cause a freer society? And if we look at human nature, history, and the fact that we live in a very secular world, it's not going to be a utopia. Okay. I think we can just discount that right away. So be careful. Be careful with this. There's so many crypto scams. This one in particular was a pig butchering scam is really, he was impersonating a celebrity. Long of the short, she thinks she's in love and this guy is not who he says he is. And he was impersonating a celebrity, and this particular celebrity, Jeremy Renner actually is who it was, the Marvel actor. So the scammers pretended to be him and said, well, my manager was involved in an illegal scheme of selling cocaine, I think is what he gave. And our bank accounts are frozen, so I don't have access to money, but I love you. I want to be with you. I want to come visit you. I'm worth 800 million. And when they unfreeze my accounts, I'm going to give you half of that or whatever the situation is. But in the meantime, I need all your money to pay my bills. Okay. So she has sent him a lot of money. Let's just put it that way. Sold houses. I mean, it's just been going on. So it's not good. Be careful. Don't trust anyone in this world. do not trust anyone. Do not send money to people you don't know. I don't care how convincing they are. If you don't personally know them, or you don't have, I've even seen, okay, like my mentor, for example, he told me about a case he worked, and it was the richest lawyer in New York City. And he did a deal with the royal family of one of the countries, and it was legit the royal family, like part of the royal family. One of them, I think there's like 6, and got scammed. So there's no shame in it. I mean, it does happen, but make yourself a hardened target. And they had business contracts. This guy's a lawyer. They had business contracts, everything, and he still got scammed. So just be careful. Do your due diligence. If something feels off, it is, usually. But the most common ones I'm seeing are romance scams and investment, where if you give me $5,000 in Bitcoin, I'm going to transfer it over to this blah, 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 and you're going to get double your money back or whatever. They'll use that. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. Okay? So keep that in mind. Look up the blockchain. Let me know what you think in the comments. I have mixed feelings about it, but ultimately, human nature, especially human nature that's not, living in a state of grace, historically uses decentralized systems, if you will, to dominate, transfer power, and then enslave. So transfer power, dominate, enslave. That's where I see this whole blockchain thing going. But hey, who knows? I could be wrong. Usually not, but let's hope so in this case. Have a blessed day.